Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Scott Mizek, Application Engineer on the infrastructure side. Today's webinar is going to be about AutoCAD Civil 3D and the Geotechnical module, analyzing borehole data. We are recording this, so hopefully by the end of the week, which is tomorrow, we should have this up on our YouTube channel. I am taking questions, so if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. I will do my best to keep looking at both screens and take a peek, and if I see a question that I can answer right away, I'll answer it. Else I'll probably just wait till the end to answer all the questions, unless of course the question that you ask, it's a lot easier to answer in the spot that I'm at during the webinar. So don't hesitate to throw in any questions if you want. I'm looking at taking about 25 minutes on this, so you'll still get some of your lunchtime left. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, the Geotechnical module is for soil borings. It allows you to take data from an Excel file and drop it into Civil, and then potentially create surfaces and profiles from the data based off of where each layer of material began and ends. So I might have 15 soil boring holes, and if I know where the top of clay is in all 15, I can actually generate a surface called top of clay. So that's what it's intended for. So what we're going to cover today is the required file or files, importing the data, the hatching, the labeling, the borehole manager, the strata manager, and then actually creating surfaces and profile views off of those. So the interface. Right now, the Geotechnical module will handle two file types, AGS and CSV. The AGS is the Association of Geotechnical and Geoenvironmental Specialists, and it's mainly used in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Hong Kong. So it's not that popular yet over in the United States, so we have our wonderful option of CSV. Which will require two files, a whole.csv and a geo.csv. These files have to be called that. You can't call it whole2, whole3, or whole and then the project name. It's got to actually be called whole and geo. In the CSV file, there are required columns: location ID, location type, northing and easting for the whole CSV file. And then in the geo file, you need the location ID, depth of top, depth of base, and the location ID column must match values in both files. So I have to have location B483 in both files for this to work. Now in the geology, the geo CSV file, I do have, oops, let me get my thing over there. Sorry about that. I forgot to unpause my screen. So hopefully now everyone can see my screen. So with the two file types, the location ID, you do need both to have a location, like I said, B483 in both files. But the whole will only have one location, B483 with the northing and easting, but the geo file, it could actually have 5, 6 different data in there, but as long as it still has that one location, and I'll show you that in a second. So optional columns that we can have in there, I can have the ground level. So if you know what the ground was shot at, you can plop it in at the depth, so the ground level, final depth, orientation. And then the other one is the geology codes, code 1 or code 2, a description, a lake code, angularity, shape, color, or moisture condition. So there's a handful of other things that you can actually show or in your table above and beyond what's required. So here are two screen caps of my Excel files or CSV files, and you'll see that I have in the whole, the top one, I have a location B278, and it has the northing, it has the easting, the ground level that it was shot at, location type, and then final depth. But in the GEOL CSV file, the geo file, I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 location IDs of both B278. And you'll see that the first one is only 7,500 steep. The next one is 3,500 steep. And then we go a foot and a half or 1.6 feet below that. And it just keeps going and going and going. So this tells me that my hole is 12.5 feet deep and I'm running 5 different materials in that one borehole. So again, they both have to have a location B278, but the geology CSV file can have multiple location types or location IDs of the same. Importing the CSV file. Open up Civil 3D, go ahead and say connect. You'll get a login, and you're going to say Geotechnical module. You'll log in, username and password is blank, and then it'll drop you to this Geotechnical module dialog box, and you'll go ahead and set create. And you'll give it an ID. I called mine Geotechnical Webinar. The name of it, it's a gas station, what I'm working on. It's currently open, category default, just some miscellaneous information in there just to add a little more explanation to the project. So if someone opens up the project, they can kind of see, oh, who's the contractor's name or the engineer or who's actually working on it. From there, you'll say okay. And it will come in and it will give you the ability for file selection. And you'll see the AGS, the 3 types, and then the CSV in there. We'll choose CSV. And then the mapping, you have 2 choices, default or geotechnical module, 2014, 2015. If you're running something newer, 2014, 2015 is one I've used. It works. And then you'll come down and you'll click add, and you'll go out and navigate to the 2 files. Again, they got to be spelled as is. There's no manipulating it or modifying it in any way. You'll add it, and then after you add it, you'll run a test on it to make sure that it works. And it says that, yep, both my files are accurate, they are valid. And then it'll give me a quick explanation, and it'll say, hey, look, you have 13 boreholes, B278 all the way down to B482. They're all of the same type RC, the ground level that they're shot at, and how deep they are. And of the 13 locations, there's actually 70 different levels of detail in there. So roughly about 5 different levels per borehole. Go ahead and say next, and then you just say finish. And at that point, it will load in, and you'll see 13 soil boring holes in there that will pop in right at the in the location of the northing and easting. Obviously, you got to make sure that your CSV file is on the same coordinate system that your drawing is on, because it won't do a coordinate conversion for you. But what happens when yours looks like that? Basically, you have all your boreholes way up at the top, not even close to the surface. Why does that happen? It's called vertical exaggeration. It's nice to have, but sometimes it's just it gets in the way. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that in your location manager you set the 3D sticks vertical exaggeration to 1, because if my screen cap that I had there, it was actually set to like 2. So instead of a ground elevation of 823.27, it was actually at 1646.52 or 54. So it'll actually double everything. So it'll actually pop up. So if it doesn't come in the right spot, it's too high, check your vertical exaggeration in the location manager, and odds are you're going to see a vertical exaggeration of something greater than 1. So again, the location tab in here, I have the ID, the type, the ground, final depth, the northing, easting. But what I also have is I have the plan, I have the stripe, and I have the model. I can turn these on and off per borehole as I see fit. So plan, basically, it eliminates the marker, the point style. Stripe, that actually will put a profile view right next to your borehole, so you can actually see the depths of all your boreholes and what each material is at in plan view. You don't have to go to a profile view for this. And then the model, that is just the big circle that's around your point, so you can actually turn that on and off also. Hatching, in the hatching, you have the ability to define what color each of your materials will be. So I clicked on border clay here, and it says, oh, you're yellow in both. So you can set all those up, and then you can save it, and it'll run border clay as the as yellow hatching. Labeling, it's under the Styles tab. And what you'll have is you'll see that the RC, because all of my boreholes had a type RC, it's actually using a plan point, KNX_CP_RC, and it's actually using a plan label that we get, that I made, elevation-CTC, and it's using the geology code for the plan strip. You have the ability to make adjustments to these and pick whatever you want. So you can use your custom-made point styles, label styles to build these in. So, as an example, when I brought this data set in, it automatically created a block style, or a block, KNX BH, and it used the point, it created a point style for me automatically, KNX location, and it used that symbol for the borehole. I could come in and, for fun, I went in and working through this data set, I actually made my symbol be a tree. So I can actually make my symbol look any way I want. It doesn't have to be the circle with the crosshairs with opposite sides shaded. It could be just an X. It could be just a circle or a tree. You can see a bunch of the different styles that it made for it when it brought in the holes. Not only can I manually force it here, but it'll also create point groups. So I'll actually be able to maybe do an override with the point group and move that point group to the top and control the way it looks by using overrides. So the labeling, it's controlled just like most things are in Civil 3D with a point style or a point label style. And you have, if it's a point, you have point groups, and you can actually create a code in your description key set if you use description key sets for KNX, and you can actually apply a different style to it, and then you click on it, say select similar, and then apply description keys, and it'll actually then take on the style that you applied in the description keys. So you can make this look any way that you want. Borehole Manager has the default styles in there. Looks a lot like the location, but it also gives you default styles. Again, just like Civil, I can come in and change the way things look. So here's a quick example of showing the stripe in a profile view, or in plan view. So I got my location in plan, but then I'm also seeing the stripe that tells me that, oh, you have fill, then glacier till, then boulder clay underneath. Next comes the Strata Manager. And the Strata Manager comes in and it looks at all 13 locations, and then we saw that there were 70 different options in those. So it says that fill, hey, fill is in all 13 boreholes. Peat is only in 2. Glacier till is in 11. Boulder clay in all 13. And then limestone, sandstone, coarse grain igneous is only in one. So what I see is each layer of material and how many boreholes it's in. What I can do is I can click boulder clay top, and what it'll do is it will generate a surface for me for all the tops of boulder clay. And then maybe top of fill. Well, I really don't need top of fill because that is my EG surface, but you know what? I could do bottom of fill or base of fill, and that will generate a surface for me for the bottom of the fill. And then boulder clay, either top or bottom. Obviously, your materials should be in the same order. I find it hard to believe that you might have sand on top of clay in one area and then clay on top of sand in another. Odds are the sand's going to be on top of clay in both spots, unless you're dealing with a really, really large area. But so would I need to click glacier till top and bottom? No, because odds are the glacier till top is going to be the same as the bottom of peat. So I could probably just click the tops of all of them or the bases of all of them or just the ones that I need. So when I do that, when I click on boulder clay, I had the wrong screen cap in here, so I just showed an arrow. So when I click on top of boulder clay, it will actually generate a surface for me off of the top of boulder clay, all the shots, and then it will build a surface in my prospector called boulder clay top. So I'm able to see everything that I want in terms of the surfaces. If I unclick it, the surface goes away. If I click it back, it comes back. So I'm able to build surfaces. I'm able to design it the way I want it to look. But now I want to create a profile view of it. So the first thing I need to do is I go to the profile create icon up at the top. I'll see that it's giving me a default style of standard. But if I look at my settings tab, there is profile view styles. The only one I had in this template at the time was standard, so that's the only one I have the option for. But I could do the major grid, horizontal geometry points. Whatever profile view style you have in here, you have that option to bring in. Next, it won't let me hit next. So if I actually go back a screen, there is nothing in this dialog box right now, so I can't hit next, I can't say back, I can't do anything. I can create the alignment, but I can't do anything until I've actually clicked in the Strata Manager what surfaces I want to include. So in this case, I included the boulder clay top, sandstone top, and the fill top. So I included those three in the Strata Manager. So now that I have those picked, and then I've picked an alignment, or I created an alignment, I can say next. But with that alignment, I could say select from drawing. So if there's any alignment in that drawing, I'm able to select it, or I can just manually draw a polyline and it'll automatically turn it into an alignment for me. After I've clicked next, I get a buffer. So it'll basically say, hey, show me anything within 20 feet of my alignment, or pick from a drawing. So while my alignment may run right through the middle of the project, I might have a borehole that's 100 feet away. I can still click on the drawing and add those boreholes to it. So my alignment doesn't have to be perfect. I can either use a buffer or manually force boreholes from the drawing. And then it's just say finish, and you will get a result looking like that. I had 4 boreholes through my alignment, and it shows me the 4 depths of each one, and then the material at each level. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into Civil 3D. And I'm going to go, and I have a site here. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to open up the Geotechnical module, and I'm going to go and say import. And I'm going to use the database Geotechnical module. I'm going to log in. Again, no username or password. Connected to the project Geotechnical webinar. So I'm going to go and say OK. I'm going to add my 2 files. So training, Civil 3D, Geotechnical. There are my two files. I could not do hole 2. It will not work. Open. Got my two files. I'm going to say next. It's going to run through. It says they're valid. I do have one warning, but that's from me bringing it in previously. Next. The following are the changes. Unaffected. It is not letting me do anything here. Let me do a quick little connect to the project. Now let's import, log in. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Shift, open. I forgot to say Geotechnical module 2014-2015. I left it as default. So now that I say next, I get valid, no warnings. Next. There's all my boreholes, the location, the type, the ground, final depth. Say next. Say next. Say finish. There are my boreholes. Oops. Let me go into an ISO view, and you can see, hey, they're floating out into space. Well, go into location. And let me find my location. Oh, there it is. It's on my second screen. Let me slide that over really quick. Always helps when you can see it. And I see the vertical exaggeration set to 1. And then the strata styles, and then the manage. Nothing to manage, so that is funny that I actually have the vertical exaggeration set to 1 and my boreholes actually came in the wrong spot. So I'll have to take a quick peek at that on why that did not work. So what I'll just do really quick is I will just jump to a model that I have completed, and I will look at these. And there are my boreholes with the vertical exaggeration, again, of 1. Go into the strata manager, and I'm going to come in and say I want to see bottom of base or bottom of fill, bottom of clay, and I'll pick bottom of glacier till. And when I look at my properties, surfaces, there is border clay, base and top. Obviously I did this once or twice before, but it automatically added those siles already in there. So I can see the glacier till, sandstone, all those are in there. So I can come in and do glacier base surface properties and make it be editing. Say apply, say okay. And I can see the surface that it built based off of the 13 points that it was used. Now that I have 3 surfaces in there, if I want to go ahead and create a profile, I'll come in and I can choose alignment 1, which is one that I just drew from scratch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another one from scratch, and I'm just going to come right through here. I'll just get these 3. Enter. Alignment 2, and it shows the surfaces that I have in there. Next. It finds all the boreholes within 20 feet of my line, and I'll say finish. and then it's drop it and give it a location. And what I have in this one set up is it is actually hatching the fill, not hatching the glacier till, and then it's actually hatching the boulder clay. So you can have it look different ways depending on what you're after. So with the data that you can get from a borehole Excel file, CSV file, I can come in and I can create profile views out of them. I can see, hey, where is top of sand, where is bottom of sand, where is bedrock? I mean, at what point am I going to have to worry about drilling instead of just using a backhoe? I mentioned the styles in there, showing the B243 with the crosshairs. If I go to my point groups and I quickly refresh or update them all, I can come into my point group for them, location points, properties, override, and I'm going to use a hydrant. Say OK, say apply, say OK. And I now have a hydrant in there. If I go into locations and I turn off model on 243, it removes the big circle around there. Or, let me pull that off again. There we go. Or I can actually turn the stripe on. I'll turn that off now. Now I'll actually see the striping, the profile view of it right next to the hole. So I can see where is everything and at what depth. So you can get a lot of information out of that Excel file in Civil 3D and definitely build surfaces. Would I recommend using this surface for true quantities? Definitely not. Just for the fact that what's typically how close are boreholes? 100 feet, 150 feet apart? Well, if you're talking about a farmland, yeah, it might be accurate enough. But if you're dealing with something like a road, you're probably going to want a little more data than every 100 feet or a parking lot. So that's what I had for the day, was to walk you through how to use the geotechnical module. The dialog boxes have made simple, slightly different changes from the earlier releases. So we'll open up for questions. There are a couple questions here. Do I have experience exporting data from GINT into a geotechnical module? Me personally, no. I actually just took one of our demo sites that we built, and then I just mimicked a data set that they gave me. I made sure I had the same columns in there, and then the same format. So no, I personally do not have experience with exporting the data from it. The next one is less of a question and more of a word of caution. In our geological area, there are thick layers of clay that contain sand lenses. From the borehole logs, it can be easy to interpret these lenses as sand layers, but they are not continuous. Be careful, because having Civil 3D build a surface between the top of those sand lenses may be deceptive. That would be another perfect reason why would you really want to build a surface out of there. Would I use the surface? Probably not. But would I do it for a profile view? Probably. But yeah, seeing clay, then sand, then clay again, the expert may be able to come in and say, hey, guess what? Odds are there's just as he put it, a sand lenses. So again, use caution if you do use the geotechnical module to build a surface, just for the fact that it's only as good as the data that you get. So if you're 150 feet apart, 300 feet apart, your surface isn't going to be that accurate. If you did boreholes 10 feet apart, hey, it might be worth it.